Hey everybody, this is Surviving Darkness with Heather and Jenny, and we are on episode 34.
Yay!
And I am toast this week. I'm burnout this week. I've been working too much and I'm toast. And so I said I didn't want to do anything heavy tonight, so we're going to remember some of the good times. Something way off subject that we normally do not talk about.
But real quick, I want to let you guys know that at about an hour in, Heather's microphone cut out, so her audio might sound a little weird, and Jenny's might as well. So just bear with us. Most of the podcast is fine, but due to a microphone issue, I had to squeeze something out. So thank you guys for listening, and I will be back at the end of the episode.
Yeah. It's definitely off subject. You sort of caught me off guard this evening with talking about the good times. Are we just going to focus on like just that or good times in general? Because we had some funny times with our brother too.
Yeah, and I think too that we should kind of not brag about ourselves, but at the same time kind of say what we've made of ourselves in life,
That we didn't let the trauma stop us.
No.
We instead of being bitter, we made it or allowed it to make us better.
Yeah.
Like, not sounding negative, but the things that we went through and the things that we knew that Mom went through, we didn't want to be ones that felt like we were stuck in that situation.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah.
So, education-wise, what do you have?
I have a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in business law. And I also have an associate's degree in occupational therapy assisting.
Which is what you did.
Well, for 22 years.
And obviously you felt pretty fulfilled with that and pretty successful with that field.
I met a lot of people, saw a lot of different things, was able to see people overcome obstacles themselves, which was good. I mean, I got to see people who were basically nothing after having like a stroke or something to being able to walk out. So yeah, it was fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there near the end, it was a little harder to go to work and stuff because you felt like it was monotonous, just doing the same thing over and over. And sort of, I feel like I was give out. Like I had given and given and given so much of myself over the years. And I felt like, not wanting to miss work or not being able to miss work very much because I was the only assistant. I felt like I missed out on a lot with the kids when they were little. And I guess when I got older, I sort of resented that.
Mm-hmm.
The things that I had missed. I mean, here they are adults, and I missed so much of the stuff that I would have wanted to have been there for when they were kids.
And then when you get to that point too, it's kind of like it's supposed to be a rewarding field. And a lot of times it is because you, like you said, you see people who have been affected by a stroke or, a wreck or, something like that has happened. And you see them at their weakest or their lowest, I guess you could say. And then they have therapy and all kinds of different things. And so you get to see them progress. And so it's supposed to be rewarding. But then when you feel like you have reached your point or your max, did you feel sometimes guilty for not seeing all the rewards in it? Just kind of taking it as a job. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Getting burnout,
Yeah, I was getting burnout. Like in the setting that I was in, there was a lot of recycles.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you went in and you got these people on their feet and they were doing really good. And then they just quit doing everything that you had them doing before. So then you'd have to go back in, redo everything that you did before. And you would know that after I leave, they're not going to do any of the exercises. They're not going to do any of this stuff for themselves. So here in a month or two, I'm going to be right back seeing the same person. And sometimes it felt like you were beating a dead horse. And I mean, that was frustrating. And then having to worry about whether, like, I was so spread out, like, am I going to be able to get to everybody if the people in this, if one person in this area isn't available? It's like I would have to change my whole schedule because I couldn't go to that area a different day.
Mm-hmm.
So it just got, I just felt overwhelmed and anxious at times. I think I got to the point that my anxiety was really getting me.
Like you couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. You couldn't see the overall picture and how things really, how good they were in some circumstances because your mind was focused on other things.
Right.
Yeah.
Needing to get from this point to that point. And I don't know. I think that I think my state of mind and the fact that I hurt so bad every day, and I was climbing in and out of the vehicle for each place, and then I would have to walk through snow, and I was always afraid I was going to fall, and that was going to cause me more pain, or wreck, and that was going to cause me more pain, and the stress and stuff would tense me up and cause me so much pain. And now that I'm not doing it, I feel like if I didn't have all that pain, I may not have had all that anxiety. They sort of worked hand in hand. The anxiety was causing more pain, and the pain was causing anxiety. And I was like, I had to be productive. So if there wasn't enough people on caseload at the one office, they expected you to go to a different office, which might be an hour away.
Right.
To just go there and see their people, and then have that hour drive, and then have half an hour, 45 minutes or whatever between the people in that area.
Right.
And I was in too much pain to deal with all that too.
And it's hard sometimes to be sympathetic to people. And you know that people are in pain. You know this too. But at the same time, sometimes it's hard to do your job and be sympathetic and not just be like, I get it.
I felt
I get it.
I couldn't adequately do my job either.
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling like I was getting to that point. If I had someone who I was like total assistance to get to the edge of the bed, I knew I couldn't physically do it anymore. I was going to wind up really hurting myself if I tried. If someone needed a lot of help to stand up, I physically could not do that. I would hurt so bad. And I just sort of felt inadequate as a therapist because I couldn't do the stuff that I was able to do before. I couldn't help them in the physical ways that I was able to do before. So that was stressful too.
So I guess my next question, I guess it's going to be a question and answer. I don't know.
Yes, Miss Interviewee. Or whatever.
So whenever I went through this stuff too, we fight depression, anxiety because of the PTSD and traumas, everything like that we've gone through. And we still fight that
every day.
And then when you're stuck at home or you can't do the things that you even want to do some days, do you ever feel like you know, I mean, I know that you know that depression is coming in, but I would get kind of upset at myself for allowing myself to get that depressed, because it was almost like I was reliving some of the days when we were going through everything and I was down in an extremely low, and I would be like, why am I letting myself do this? Why am I allowing myself to be a victim of this circumstance? Do you get what I'm saying? And
I get what you're saying. I guess it takes me a little bit to realize I'm in a depressed state.
Mm-hmm.
I'll feel so tired. I don't want to do nothing. It's like, I don't want to go nowhere. I don't want to do nothing. And I feel just tired. And I'm like, am I getting sick? What is going on with me? And it'll take me a day or two. And then I'll be like, no, I know exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the times that I really start pouring in like the Christian music, reading the Bible, things like that, because I know that that's the only way I'm going to get out of it. But
Mm-hmm.
at first I have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And it takes me a little bit. I mean, after all these years, it still takes me a little bit to be like, yeah, I'm getting depressed.
So I guess in a way that kind of does lead into me wanting to, or bringing up the fact that I said we should talk about more of the happy times, because I had said this, I'm tired. I'm mentally tired. I'm working more right now than I have been, and which it is what it is, but I don't want to talk about all the negative stuff today, because when my mind or when my body gets this tired, and then we talk about all this other stuff that we went through, it drains us anyway, period.
Right.
But I just felt like today I didn't want to handle that stuff.
Right.
I didn't want to.
Right.
And I mean, we still talk about that on here, and we will talk about that stuff today, even with trying to talk about the good stuff.
Right.
There will still be things that come up just because it's the conversations that we're having.
Right.
But I don't want, where I am right now, physically and mentally, I didn't want to be brought down even more. And so that's why I was like, I don't want to talk about all the bad stuff.
The stuff that you have to relive.
Yeah, I don't want to.
In a negative way.
And I had somebody ask me something the other day. It was something about, or maybe I saw it, I don't know, I don't even remember, but it was something about, what are your darkest secrets? What do you think about in the dark and everything? And I literally was like, I don't remember if I had a conversation with somebody or what it was. I was like, I try not to let myself think too much in the dark, because if I think in the dark, then my mind starts going to really bad places, because there were horrific things that happened in the dark. And even now, like I look, I don't sleep well at night. And when I get up, I turn the TV on. And a lot of times I just have the TV on. I have it turned to like nothing. And I don't even have sound on hardly at all. And I'm looking at my phone, playing games on my phone or whatever. But that still preoccupies my mind versus thinking about being by myself. They were like, well, I wasn't technically meaning like in the dark.
Right.
But I was like, well, I just don't, I mean, I get what you're saying now, but at the same time, I was just saying, I don't let myself think about the darkness a lot of times.
Right.
I'm not scared of the dark now. I'm not, that's not what I'm saying. I don't like the dark. We went out, we had a big cookout at our farm, and we went out the first night, my husband and I did, to look at his cameras after dark. It didn't bother me to go out after dark. The one thing that scared me was spiders were going to get on me. I don't like spiders.
Right.
But to actually be out in the dark, that part didn't scare me. But
Right.
I don't like the dark and the thoughts that come up if I'm just laying there in the dark, because there was so much stuff that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And when they said that, or like I said, I don't remember if I was having a conversation or if I was just kind of listening to something and that came up and your mind goes elsewhere. And I was just like, literally, well, I don't allow myself to think about the dark.
Right.
So there are times in our nightmares and stuff that obviously it happens.
I have been having the same nightmare like a few times. I don't know what it means. Like, I was looking it up today, and it was like, it can mean that you feel like everything's out of control. You are under a lot of pressure. There's anxiety, because I keep dreaming about tornadoes, like big, huge tornadoes are coming. And I'm like, y'all, I've got to get in the house.
That's also,
They're coming. You got to get in the house, and fire.
That's also because you have a nephew who watches those with you and shows you the fire tornadoes.
No, but yeah, that one made sense that time. But last night I had another one, and this time my dog was on fire, and I was like telling my husband and my son, I was like, y'all have to get in there. She doesn't know to lay down. She can't get it out. And I was like, y'all have to hurry up and get in there. And they weren't. So I like jumped over the top of the kennel and was like patting her out. I was like, and she was fine. But she was on fire.
That's because you have a zoo.
My dog was on fire.
That's why. It's because you have a zoo.
And it was because of the storm. I was like, oh my goodness. I woke up and I'm like, there I go again with tornadoes. This time it wasn't a fiery tornado, it was a tornado. And then my dog was on fire.
I don't have a comment for that.
I think it could be a muscle relaxer too. I don't take the one very often, and I think that might be what triggers those
And
nightmares.
it could be because a lot of times when I have my really bad ones, it's when I've gone back to sleep after taking that stuff. Yeah. And so could be, very well could be that.
I'm like, I can't take that muscle relaxer because it makes me go through tornadoes and fires.
Yeah. And it could be that. Yes. Yes.
I woke up all shook. I was like, I gotta look up and see what this means. And then it was like a tornado could mean that you just feel out of control in your life, and there's like storms brewing, and there's anxiety. And I'm like, me anxiety? Nah, not me. I'm not anxious at all. I'm not going through any kind of storm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always some kind of storm coming.
Mm-hmm. There is. And we know that we have to always, even though things are not like they were, we always have to have our guard up, because we know, just as a Christian, that the devil is always there, and trying to throw things at us and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. And a lot of things in your life are chaotic right now. Not chaotic, they're just, you don't have a lot of control over some things right now.
No.
You don't. I mean,
I
seriously.
couldn't even find my blood pressure cuff. It's in storage somewhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see why you would be dreaming about that stuff.
And every time I go to the foot doctor, what's your blood sugar's been running? I don't know. My glucometer is in storage, which Mom got hers out. So I'm good. I told him I do fine when I'm on that Monjero.
Yeah.
I do fine with my blood sugar was 85 this morning. It was 85 this afternoon. I started feeling, I guess, anxious.
So you know what? Speaking of that, I got my lab work done because, every 6 months I have to go to the kidney doctor because God decided in 2018 I was not where I should be with him. And he was like, bam, you're going to have some kidney failure. And so anyway, but he healed me, I mean, I still have issues, but my kidney function is perfect. Everything to do with my kidneys was perfect.
Poof, kidney failure.
I know.
You made it sound like he was some kind of wizard or something.
Well, he was like, listen, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of so you remember what I'm capable of.
He says,
because I'm bringing you to your knees and you're getting ready to have to go on dialysis. And he only knew what else was going to happen. Could have been a lot worse than that. To say,
he just took that hedge down like he did with Job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sometimes he wants the enemy to see the strength that he's put within us.
And a lot of people have heard, seen it. And every time, it sounds silly, but it's almost like it's a gift. Like, I never know what my lab work is going to be like. But each time I'm like, okay, it's going to be good. I'm hoping that it's going to be good. Everything's going to be good. And then it is, But did you just poke yourself in the eye?
Don't scratch my nose with my fingernail.
Oh
my eyes
God.
waters. I think I took the skin off the tip of my nose.
But it, it's like, okay, good. Another 6 months. Everything's good. Everything's good. And it's been, closer to 7 years now that everything has been good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a big deal.
Yes, it is. That was
My
definitely a
life could have
scary
been,
time.
my life could be a lot different right now if he didn't have a different plan. So,
And sometimes that is what it takes, is
Mhm.
taking that hedge down
mm-hmm.
to let you see, this is a protection that I give you all the time.
And I was not giving him any attention like I should have. I was, like not at all where I should have been.
Those
with my
trials
walk
are
with
what give
him.
us strength too.
Mhm. So I have 3 college degrees. I have an associate in ultrasound, an associate in x-ray. I'm not saying the whole big long words for those because it doesn't really matter. And then the bachelor's in science. And we're not saying this as a brag, like I said, we're kind of proud of ourselves because of the things that we went through. Our lives could have been so different.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, things weren't always terrible at home, but they were more terrible than there was good. And we didn't want to be stuck in a circumstance like that. Not at all. To where we had no choice but to stay where we were and to be in the middle of something that was awful because we didn't have an option. We didn't have an out.
I think that growing up, I don't want to say I didn't have, I don't know. I guess as a teenager, I sort of didn't have that respect for mom that I should have had.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, you choose to stay in this mess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she didn't know what I was going on with us. We didn't know what I was going on with her. But I'm talking about the just drinking all the time and coming in and throwing fits and fighting
Mm-hmm.
and fussing and cussing and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like anytime he got paid, he went to the bars.
Mm-hmm.
And here mom was trying her best to pay the bills.
Right.
And any extra money should have gone towards paying the bills.
And I remember these times. Like I remember obviously him coming in drunk and all this other stuff. But I don't remember as much of it as you do because I was younger.
Right.
It was so I remember like the dad that came in from work that I would get, cold dirt all over my face and stuff. And then of course he wasn't able to work. And then being home, but then getting rehabilitated and going to work. That,
Right.
those are things that I remember. And I'm not saying like that I don't remember any of the bad stuff because I do.
Right. Right.
But like when you went to college and that's all there was going on was just fighting and fighting and fighting. And
I couldn't understand why she would stay.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it now. It's hard
Yeah.
to make it on your own with kids and stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
And that's why we went to college. We did
Yes.
not want to be in a situation where we felt like we were trapped.
And I don't know if you feel this way, but it's kind of just like, well, it just kind of was what had to be, but if somebody else would have been in our circumstance or someone would talk to us about their circumstances and say, I did this, I'm proud of myself because this is where I am versus where I came from.
Right.
I'd be like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when people message and they say, I've been listening to your podcast, or I just want you to know that I think you all are so strong. I appreciate those comments. I truly do. And I don't mean to sound like I do not appreciate it when I say this. And, of course, I'm like, thank you so much. It was God that helped us through and everything. But at the same time, I'm almost like, we are strong, but I felt like we didn't have any other choice but to be that way because this was a hand that was dealt to us and we could either choose to work through it, rise above it, or we could let us be led down a totally different path.
Right.
You know, so yeah, we are strong. I don't know how I'm trying to say it. I guess sometimes I don't want to say I don't feel strong, because obviously I know that we came through a lot. I don't know what the word is. More like I don't deserve somebody giving me praise like that.
Right.
If that sounds right, you know,
Right.
like I appreciate that, and I truly do, and thank you so much.
You don't feel like it was any strength of your own
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
got through. It was just what you do to survive.
yeah, yes, that's exactly right. And I feel like anyone in our circumstance would have done the same thing.
Right.
But at the same time, a lot of people in our circumstances, or even less than what we went through, do not come out like we have.
Right.
And like I said, I do not mean that
And
putting
negative.
anybody else down whatsoever, you know. But if I would have been an outsider looking in, I'd be like, man, my goodness gracious. I don't know how you are a productive person in society at all, and how you're not just curled up in the fetal position in your bed all day long, just wallowing in it. You know, I mean, I can see how people say that, absolutely. But I don't feel that, I guess, worthy of that, if that makes sense.
We had so many overcomers, for examples.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a cousin that was paralyzed in his teenage years,
Mm-hmm.
neck down. He didn't let that stop him. He went on to college. He became a psychologist. He went to work every day. He became a preacher. And he probably wouldn't have had that lifestyle if that wouldn't have happened to him, because from what I hear, he was a rambunctious kid.
Mm-hmm.
He was a mean teenager.
And even Dad, you know, he was a disabled coal miner.
That's what I was going to say.
And chose to, with help of organizations, to be able to go back to college, got accepted into a program where they only took, 12
Mm-hmm.
or so people into that, got accepted into that, and graduated at 40 years old or 42 years old. Not a lot of people would do that. Once they're disabled, they just stay on the disability forever, you know?
Right.
So, and granted, he wasn't able to do it very long because his body was disabled. He didn't have a lot of issues, but he did work through that, did go to college, and did work and do a lot of good for a lot of people by being a president of a union and helping people out like that and helping them with their issues. And a lot of people had a lot of respect for him because of that work and everything that he did, you know? So, and I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, we did have a good role model there. And I see why people do not have any negative thoughts about him.
Right.
You know?
He exuded a lot of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one that will fight for you when no one else is, and all of that. I mean,
It's hard sometimes.
Right.
Because...
At the time, I thought, you know, I was still in that mindset of he's like a hero. He's saving us all the time from all this stuff. So when I was younger, I saw him like a hero.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't give up. He went on to college. He helps people anytime he can help people. And it's hard for me not to think negative.
It is. It's almost like it's two totally different people.
Right.
And I do think about that sometimes.
That there was an ulterior motive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to look like I'm this great person outside the home.
Yeah.
To make up for the other.
Yeah. And I have to, your kids were able to see him and have a different relationship with him as a grandfather, you know?
The other grandkids did too,
Mm-hmm.
to the point that we have one niece that doesn't even want to listen to the podcast because she doesn't want to hear any negative.
Right. And that's totally on her. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, that's fine.
Right.
If she doesn't want to listen, then
Right.
so be it, you
Right.
know, and that's what we've said. It is
right.
what it
She wants
is.
to keep the picture of him
Mm-hmm.
in her mind of how he was.
And, you know, mine was born way, way, way after. And I wasn't talking about him a lot. We would talk about my father-in-law who had passed away, but we didn't talk about my dad very much at all. And I was like, but I need to let him know where we come from too.
Right.
He needs to know who he was and what he did and things like that, you know. And right now he'll not know any of the negative stuff,
Right.
you know, not right now.
Right.
And he may never know. I don't know. When that moment comes, I don't know how I will approach it.
Well, my youngest one has heard all of it.
Mhm.
now that he's editing and producing and all that, the podcast, he's heard more than I think he had heard his whole life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think by him hearing it and knowing what all we had gone through, he understands a little bit more why I was the way I was.
Mm-hmm. But he would take us fishing, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember him taking us camping, and it rained the whole entire time, but he still tried to help us fish
Right.
a little bit, you know.
Right.
And he loved fishing,
Mhm.
but 3/4 of the time he spent getting me untangled from everything because I was little and I didn't know
Right.
how to fish.
Right.
And all I was doing was getting everything hung up all the time.
To be honest, we always went to that same place, and it seemed like it was after a big rain or something. So there was tree limbs and everything in the water, so we were all getting hung up.
Yeah. Yes.
It wasn't so fun when you're getting hung up every single time you cast out.
And he got so tired of it that he was like, here's some bluegill over here.
Right.
Just stand here and just drop your lure right here in your worm and just don't move from this spot. I would like to fish too, so don't move from here.
Don't move. Is it time for y'all to go to bed yet?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm going to do some catfishing when y'all go to sleep.
And I remember the one time we went with our neighbors.
Yeah.
And we literally we're trying to take minnow buckets that have holes all in it and scoop the rainwater out of the tent.
Right.
Well, that's kind of
And that's when Mom was finally like, I am never, ever going
Yes.
camping again.
yes.
There is nothing but dirt in the pans. Everything you eat has dirt in it. And she was like,
it rained every time she
like,
went.
that's what she was like. It's going to rain. If I say I'm going, it's going to rain.
Yes.
So no, I'm not going.
Yes. But then it was the same, you know, he would be like, all right, girls, Mom's at work. And I remember our cousin was in from Virginia, and he was like, we're going to load up and we're going to go down to this park. We went down, we walked trails, we did everything like that. We laughed. You know, we had the top off of the little geo tracker that we had, hair blowing everywhere, just laughing and having a good time, you know. And I remember those times too, or him just saying, like we said before, little corny jokes and everybody just laughing at those jokes, and everybody just, we all gathered at our house because that's just how it was. Everybody just came over here because everybody had a good time. So
Everybody get together and play cards.
mm-hmm.
All the kids will be playing. I mean, we had a lot of good times.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the type, like, if his brother and his wife and the kids didn't have anything, we didn't have much, but we took half of
Yeah.
what we had. He wasn't going to let them go hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Made sure that they had Christmas gifts and stuff like that because he didn't want them to not have anything, even if it meant we were going to get a little less that year.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember us all getting in trouble for peeking at our Christmas gifts that were under the Christmas tree because one of our cousins talked us into it, and we had to all line up and get our spankings because the one had talked us all into opening or peeking at our Christmas gift. And so they couldn't say exactly who had looked at their Christmas gifts for sure. I'm pretty sure it was probably all of us.
Probably.
But we all had to line up and get our little pats on the butt and then go on.
Right.
I mean, thinking about that now, next. You know what I mean? Like, come in here and get your whipping. Next. And there was 5 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if our brother was still living at home at the time, and I'm sure he was, but he worked a lot at that time too. And
The two of us.
and nobody, I mean, it was just different then. It wasn't like nobody was getting out of line, literally stepping out of line. No, you were taking your punishment. You were going on about your business.
But that's one of the things he did instill in us.
Mm-hmm.
He taught us how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
He always told us, don't start nothing, but don't take nothing either.
Uh-huh.
And it was,
and they did teach us physically how to fight.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
exactly.
We were trading punches with guys. You know, I mean, I laugh at it now, but that was my nickname in high school, was Diesel.
Well, I hit that one boy in the arm and put like it looked like a big old egg knot on his arm. And I felt so bad. That sort of scared me. I was like, what if I hit somebody in the face? If I did that to their arm. So that made me a little nervous.
I never had to fight. We never had to fight,
No,
but
I looked mean enough, I guess.
So there was a couple times that things came up and I was like, yep, it's going to go down. It's going to happen. And then it didn't happen. And that was fine because things were resolved, you know, without that.
Right.
But even now, I'm decrepit and to probably get my rear end kicked or, you know, but at the same time, we don't back down. You know, it's just that, you know, we don't cause any issues with people. If we, you know, we don't try to anyways. Sometimes they come looking for us, you know, but we don't go looking for trouble.
Right.
You know, and that's what he did say, you know, don't start it. But at the same time, you're not going to take anything either.
I mean, I had my fights when I was younger with the neighborhood kids. I mean, we'd fist fight in the yard.
Well, I smacked one of them across the face because he called me a liar, and I was not a liar.
I remember that.
And I got mad. And so I came in and told him myself. And Dad said, well, why did you do it? And I told him that he had called me a liar. And he said, well, did you lie? I said, no, I was not lying. He said, well, then okay. And that was it. I mean,
that was the end, friend.
I mean, you know, because for one, they did cause trouble. They ran their mouth a lot.
Right.
We weren't just outright mean and throwing down with everybody.
No.
But at the same time,
we stood up for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a couple of the ones that, you know, happened in school. I'm not going to, you know, it doesn't matter. But I remember coming home and I said, Dad, there's this one girl and she keeps saying stuff and she keeps saying stuff. And I remember him saying, don't take it. Don't back down. Just don't. Whatever happens, happens.
Right.
You're not going to get in trouble at home.
Right.
And she hung out with some of the rough girls.
Right.
So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it might be bad.
Yeah.
You know? But that's what we were taught. It doesn't, you still just do what has to be done to make sure that you take up for yourselves.
And we were also taught to take up for other people that were being bullied.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't bully people, but we took up for people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes.
You take up for the underdog.
And there was a girl we used to ride the bus with, and our other neighbor, she bullied this girl. And I had totally forgotten about all of this, you know. And this was probably 7 years ago or so. I saw her, and in front of her husband and her kids, she said, I will never forget you getting off the bus with me, and you would walk me to my grandmother's house because this other girl in the neighborhood was so mean to me. She would pinch me. She would bite me, everything. She said, and when you found out about it and I told you about it, you said, it will not happen again. And you would walk me to my grandmother's house and make sure that it never happened again. Because that's just what we did. I never thought about it. You know, after that, it was like you said, it was just our character. You know, you just did it. I don't remember saying, you don't worry about it.
Right.
But obviously I did because she brought it up, you know, 25 years later or
and
whatever.
it may not have even been said, oh, just don't you worry about it. She just knew. too that
Mhm.
you were going to be there. And you may have even said, don't worry about
She-
it. I got you.
And she
Mhm.
said that I had told her, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And she said, and you walked me home every time that I had to get off the school bus and go to my grandmother's house. You would walk me home to where I did not have to worry about her.
Right.
And I didn't do that for some pat on the back. Like you
No.
said, it was just
That's
she
what
was
you
having
do.
a problem. Yeah, exactly. And I knew this. She was a good woman. She and I played all the time. We'd fight, whatever, but we did that. That's just what we did.
I
And
think that's why I have such a hard time with this generation now that thinks it's okay for 3 or 4 people to jump
I do
on
too.
one.
Yes, I can't
I'm
deal
like,
with that.
when that happened when we were in school, the people that jumped in that fight, they got their butts whooped
Yes.
until people got over it, until they
Mhm.
forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the worst thing you could do, was jump in a fight
Yeah.
and 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 or 4-on-1.
Because it didn't matter
It
if
didn't make
you
you
didn't
cool.
care for that
Right.
person. You were jumping in to help the person that you didn't like because it just wasn't right.
Right.
It didn't matter if you hated that person. If they're getting jumped by 2 or 3, you're jumping in too. It did not
And
matter.
now it's cool.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I can't deal
what
with
is
that
cool
either.
about that?
No.
I mean, I'm almost 50 years old, and if I see somebody getting jumped like that, I'm gonna be jumping in.
Yeah, that's
I was like, I can't take many hits to the head. You
Yeah.
can't either. Not with our necks.
yeah. No,
Not with our necks fused. But I would still jump in.
that's me too, and that's what I say. And that was something that our dad did, our uncles did. You know what I mean? Like,
You take up for
mm-hmm,
the underdog. You take up for the one that's a little weaker.
mm-hmm.
But there's not going to be 2 or 3 jumping on one.
Mm-mm.
That's
No.
just, if you can't handle it on your own, you're just getting your butt kicked, and maybe you should have kept your mouth shut.
And it's so funny because, like, and even now, we talk about this, and it's like, are you got an issue? Is there going to be a problem? You know what I mean? Like, because if you got a problem with her,
You're going to have a problem
then
with me.
we might all have a problem. And we're still like that with family, even if we haven't talked, like our cousins that grew up with us, and they were like siblings to us. Seriously,
Right.
they lived with us for a long time. We'd spend summers with them and everything. And it was like, oh, no. I got your back should something happen. You know what I mean?
Right,
You don't have to worry about anything because we got you,
Like that meme that we saw, me and my sisters fighting, and you jump in. We're going to turn on you.
That's right. Yeah.
Basically,
exactly.
keep
Yeah.
your nose out of
Mhm.
it. We'll work this out. You
Yeah.
go put your 2 cents in. We both going to turn on you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Well, we got this. We're good. One of us might end up black and blue, but don't you worry about it,
Right.
So,
So, I mean, we were taught to look out for other people.
mhm.
We were taught to make sure that other people are good. It wasn't all about us.
And just Mom's character, she was a lot more submissive. That was just how she was raised. Not
Right.
to be ran over, but at the same time, not to.
Well, she put up with a whole lot for a long time, but when she'd had enough, she had enough.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I mean is that not to be ran over, but at the same time to not be as aggressive sometimes as we are.
Right.
Me.
Yeah. I used to be you. Now I've mellowed out, and now I'm like, oh, Lord, she going to go after
I
them.
know. It's crazy.
Yeah, when somebody asks the patient if you want to take it outside, that's
Well,
hilarious.
He wasn't being totally rude, but he wasn't being the nicest either.
Want to take this
So-
outside? You caught the poor guy so off guard. He didn't know what to say, and then he was nice after that.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't know about that girl. I'm gonna cut up with her because I don't know what she gonna
Yeah.
do.
But I mean, I was like, dude, you don't have to be that way. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right. There's no reason to be
Yeah.
obnoxious.
so yeah, we'll do what we got to do. I mean, if that's what we got to do, we'll do it. Let's go out. I don't care.
We can take this
I
outside.
might lose my job, but you're not going to come in and be disrespectful to me.
You
You
want to go out
know?
back where nobody can see it, or you can go in the parking lot where everybody
Yeah,
can see it. It's the choice
exactly.
is yours, but we can take it outside.
Yeah.
Front, back, you choose.
And I try to be super nice to everybody. I just like to get along with everybody. I like people, most people.
Mhm.
And, I mean, I just like to joke and laugh and stuff. And I don't have a problem with people picking.
Right.
But when you're condescendingly picking,
Yeah.
I do have a problem with
Right.
that.
When
And
you're
you're
trying to
kind of being a
people and-
smart aleck
Yeah.
and things like that. I don't like that. And that
Right.
is kind of, I guess, goes back to the way we were raised,
Right.
I can joke. I can absolutely take a joke. We can laugh and we can pick all day long.
Right.
But when you cross that line and you're trying to be a bully or you're
Right.
trying to be a smart aleck, I don't do well with that.
Right. I'm going to change the subject on you. We were talking about like good memories. One of the things that always sticks out of my mind is vacations.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't go on a lot of vacations, not until we got older, because we didn't have the money.
Right.
Until Dad went to college and
Different
Sorta,
circumstances. Mm-hmm.
making decent wage and stuff. Then we were able to go on some vacations. But there are times that I go to the store and I really want to get those vegetable crackers and the spray cheese, because that's what we took every single
We
time
did.
we went on vacation, and it just don't hit the same.
And it was a staple in our house for a long time in our
Right.
teenage years.
Right.
Yeah, we
Those
had
vegetable chip or vegetable crackers and put that spray cheese on
Yep.
them. That was our thing.
Mhm.
That was our jam.
Yeah, it was. And Dad, we would go to the lake and he would swim with us and goof off with us and things like
Chico
that.
sticks was a big thing here for a
Yes.
while.
All the time. He had those all
Right.
the time.
Right. That was, I
And
mean,
it was kind of one of those like, you can have one,
but the rest are
the
mine.
rest are mine. That's all you got. But they also taught us too, like you said about our cousins, if I have a biscuit and there's 4 of us sitting here and that's all that we have is one, I brought this biscuit because I didn't know there was going to be this many people here and y'all want a piece of my biscuit.
We cutting it in 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I might not be happy because I bought the biscuit for myself, but
I really wanted that biscuit.
yeah, exactly. But if that's how it works out, then that's the way that it is.
Right.
And, so I pick on my husband because he's one of these like, no, I laid out exactly 2 hands full of French fries. You said you did not want one. I counted those after I pulled them out of the stove. There is exactly 39 and a piece of another one in there. And you're not getting even the piece of one that's right there. You said you didn't want any.
You're not
You
getting
cannot
it.
have any of those. And I'm like, do you want anything to eat? No, I'm good. Pull out the French fries. I think I want a French fry. All right. Do you want half of these French fries?
Right.
And he, the other way around, he'd be like, I ask you, you're not getting one fry, But
That's like my first husband. We were arguing. I mean, I was mad. I mean, fit to be tied. I don't even know what we were arguing over. So I went there and I cooked dinner and I was like, you want something to eat? And he was like, what? I said, do you want something to eat? He said, you're actually asking me if I want to eat when you're that mad at me? I was like, yeah, well, you got to eat.
yeah,
And he was like, I'm confused. He was like, you're that mad at me, but you're still going to make sure that I'm taken care of. I said, yeah, you got to eat.
it's what you do. Yes, you do.
I'm still mad at you, but I'm going to let you eat.
Yeah, exactly.
You might want to watch it now.
Yeah.
But he was just like in
Let
shock.
me make your plate,
We
sir.
had just gotten married. I mean, we hadn't been married that long, and he was just in shock. He was like, 5 minutes ago, you wanted me dead. And now you want to feed me? He was like, what in the world? No, it's like, well, you got to eat. I'm not going to sit here and eat in front of you. If you're hungry, eat.
Mhm. Yes.
I'll still cook for you.
I'll kill you after you eat.
I'll kill you after. I
But
want to make
you
sure.
gotta have a full belly
Yes.
before I do it.
You gotta go down with a full belly.
Yeah, yes. And that's just how we do,
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, just thinking about things. And that's how we went through horrible things. Dad had horrible things that he was dealing with too.
And I think because I always had that excuse for him. He went through a whole lot. He lost his mom at 9. He had lost his dad at 12. And he pretty much looked after his brother and sister and took care of them, and they were in a bad atmosphere, and that's why he did this and that's why he did that. So I made the excuses
Mm-hmm.
for him, and I think a lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna change the subject again. I was watching a Dr. Phil the other day, and a girl was talking about going through the exact same stuff that we went through. She was 15 years molested by her dad. And the whole family was like, you're lying. You're lying about this. He's in prison and you're lying about this. And she was like, what do I have to lie about? And then they were like, well, why in the world would you let him watch your kids if he did all this to you? Why would you have him walk you down the aisle if he did all this to you? Why would you treat him decently because he did all that to you? She said, because he was my dad and I loved him.
Yeah.
And
And
I
it's
believed
very
her
hard.
I believed her the whole time. I was like, yes, unless you've been there, you don't understand. That's your dad. And that's what she said. He's my dad. He's supposed to walk me down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I left my daughter there because my mom was supposed to be there. And it was the same thing with us. We were like, if mom's going to be right there in the room or if somebody else is going to be there, then it's fine
Yeah.
if the nieces and stuff come and stay. But otherwise, no, they're not staying there.
Yeah, exactly.
So we were protective of them to a point. So that girl was like, if I knew he was going to be the only one there with my daughter, no, she would not have gone.
Exactly, yeah.
But I let her stay the days that you were off work and I knew you would be there too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other girl was like, well, he never did that to me. So I don't think he did that to you. And she was like, well, I'm happy that you didn't go through the things
Yeah,
that I went through.
absolutely.
She said, I'm thrilled that you didn't go through
Mhm.
all that, but that don't mean it didn't happen to me.
Well,
So they did
sorry.
they did a lie detector test and everything. Guess what? She passed.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, I still don't understand. And Dr. Phil was like, you won't understand. He said, because he was the authoritarian. He was in control of the situation. They said, in that control, if that's over you for all those years, it's hard to come out from under.
It is.
So yeah, to her, it was normal for him to walk her down the aisle. That was her dad. And he was in control.
Yeah.
And I was like, exactly.
And
exactly.
I don't know her circumstance, but a lot of times it is easy. It's easier to keep that facade going, keep the fake going, than like we've said before, than it is.
And she was 25, plumb up to 25 years old. This was going on with her. And that's why they were like, you were an adult. How did you continue to let it happen? It happens because you don't really have the mentality of an adult at that point because you've been controlled for so many years.
What about men who take advantage of their wives? Literally.
Yes.
They continue to stay with them because they are manipulated in the mind. Things are not like they're supposed to be. And when you're in those circumstances, your mind is not rational.
Right.
It's not.
I was like, I wanted to jump through the TV and say, I believe you.
Yeah, exactly.
My dad walked me down the
Mhm.
aisle. It didn't
And
make it any different. This stuff still happened, but you learn to separate the dad from the monster.
And our cousin, the one that was my age, never went through the things that we did. And she said that. Like, if she did, it was very, very, very little. And she said, it is so hard for me to sit back and listen and know what all you all went through. And she was always very small, very petite, and she said, maybe it was because I was so much smaller than everybody else. She said, I didn't develop like us other girls did, she said, but I didn't go through that. So that woman, you know what I mean? Like she said, I'm grateful that you didn't go through that. That's wonderful that you didn't go through that. But you could have been going through everything and I might not have ever been touched. It doesn't always mean that it's going to be absolutely everybody that's around. It's easier to keep things at bay and hidden when you only have one or two people versus everyone that comes around.
Right. And that goes back to us. We had our bad times, but we also had our good times.
Mhm.
It was just a given. My dad was going to walk me down the aisle.
Yeah.
that's just how it was.
And it was, when we left, give him a hug, tell him you love him. That's when I worked with him at the same hospital. I worked evening shift at the beginning of his stretch. He would work evening shift. So when I was leaving at night, he got off like an hour later than me. I would walk over to where he worked, just across the hospital. I'm leaving, heading home. Good night. Love you. You be careful heading home. Because that was my dad.
Call when you get home.
Yeah, exactly.
You got home okay.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just the way that it was.
It was like there was a lot of abnormal stuff, but there was also normal stuff.
And I think that that's why now, like we've said, especially for me, I can't speak for you in the sense, I know that we've talked about this, but I think that's why I have such a hard time sometimes, because all I think about are the negative things.
Right.
And everything that happened. And I think that he was trying to change towards the end of his life. Do I think he went about it the right way sometimes? No, because he still denied things. But when he had to actually face it, and both of us say, we're no longer under your control. You will acknowledge what you have done, or we will not be around. We will not have a part of this. We'll not be a part of this family, or around you. We just won't. And I think when he realized that, plus tried to accept Christ and change his life too, sometimes I wish that God would have let him live a little longer, so we could have seen more of the changes, to truly see if he was going to really change or not.
I want to say that not so much lived a little longer, but lived a little longer, but gone a little longer without the cancer. Because after the surgery, there was a big change. So we had that little bit of time.
And I wish that the doctors would not have made a guinea pig out of him.
Right.
Because if we would have been told up front how it was really going to be, he would have made this decision along with us to have lived with the cancer for another few years.
Right.
Versus what he went through.
Which, I mean, because we are telling him, you need to have this because, you have grandkids that love you. And because of the misinformation we were given.
And it wasn't, we were not given the option of an informed decision.
Right.
Because, I went with him to be another person to hear and listen. And with what they were giving us, it gave us a lot of false hope.
Right.
Oh, you can go. You can have this surgery. It'll be fine. You'll be on the 2 years cancer-free on dialysis. Get on the transplant list. Everything will be good. No worries. This happens a lot. And then, no, it did not happen a lot.
No.
And things were not done like they were supposed to be.
Right.
And had he and all of us been told correctly, the first doctor that said, listen, this is terminal.
Right. He was a PA.
And
that doctor said he didn't have the right to say that because that wasn't true.
Yeah.
He's just an assistant. And he should have never said that. He was the only one that was honest.
And he said, there's nothing that really can be done. The type of cancer that it is, it invades the arteries.
You only have one kidney left.
It invades the vessels. There's not really anything that can be done. And you don't just have one tumor like you had with the other kidney. There's several, 3 or 4.
Right. And an ablation wasn't happening. They couldn't just be burned off.
And so after his surgery, it was, your cat just about fell off the shelf. It's always the cats.
Always. Near the end of the time.
And so we still were denied seeing where he might have ended up.
Right.
Is how I feel.
Right.
Not mad at God, you know what I mean? Like, not at
No.
all, because it is what it is. Whatever
Right.
God's plan is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
But sometimes part of me wishes, I guess you say, I wish that he would have completely changed and we could have had a normal, regular father-daughter relationship for 15 years, 10 years.
I want to think that it would be like that. But I wonder if there was just so much damage already done that it would have never been like that.
That's why I say I wish.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would have either.
I think that there was just so much hurt and so much damage. I don't know that anything would, we wouldn't have even been able to recognize normal. Everything was so abnormal. I just don't even know that we would have recognized.
I don't know either. I think by that time we had become so bitter because we had really realized the severity of the situations everywhere.
Yes.
And not just with us, but other family members, other things, not just our immediate family. There were other things going on, and there was a lot of bitterness, and there still is a lot of bitterness, you know, as far as people overlooking things that should never be overlooked, like we've said before in the other, you know, the previous episodes. So, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I'd like to hope that we could, because, you know, I mean, like, I know that nobody has a picture perfect life. I know that. And you never know what goes on. But you do see the parent, the fathers and daughters who absolutely have nothing but just a wonderful relationship, you know? And to be honest with you, we were denied a lot of that with our mom too.
Right. We were.
I mean, we have mom and we absolutely love her, you know, I mean, but we didn't have a close relationship with her. We weren't allowed to for a very long time until after we were married, out of the house and everything like that, because everything had to be kept, everyone had to be kept distanced.
And he controlled everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even her friends coming over and talking and stuff, he had to be right there all the time. He had to be noticed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. And like you say, it was, well, he's just coming in to talk. You know what I mean? That's what it looked like to other people. Oh, he just wants to come talk to everybody. Well, if they would have known the circumstances, then they'd have been like, oh, then I know why he goes and interrupts or wants to be the one to control the conversation.
Yeah.
Because then he knows what's being said and what's not being said.
Right. I still catch myself saying some of his corny jokes. So.
I know. You can't help it. I can't help it.
Right.
They just came.
Yeah. They just flowed. Can't stop it.
Mm-mm. And it's funny because a lot of people don't get them now.
No.
Because we're getting old.
I told my husband he's a gentleman and a scholar. He was like, I don't even know what a scholar is. What is it? I'll give you a medal as soon as you get a chest to pin it on.
Yes.
Yeah, that was another one. And then he would ask girls at the ball field, the little girls who their husband was, or what was their name before they got married. And they're like, I'm not married. And he said, oh, does your husband know?
Yeah.
But I don't have a husband. I'm not married. Oh, he don't know, does he? Just the confused look on their face. It was cute.
Mm-hmm.
I said, be like, but I'm not married. My name's still the same because I'm not married.
Uh-huh.
Does your husband know? Huh? I can't have a husband. I'm not married.
Yeah. And even when he wasn't able, he would go and do things for people as much as he could or wanted to, you know. So, and even looking back, there's a lot of times that's like, you know, no, he didn't do this and he didn't do that, but he may not have felt like it. Other times he probably really just didn't feel like it. You know what I mean? Like, so, but he would try to help out as much as he could. He always did that.
We'd go to people's houses and he would be laying carpet or doing some kind of work in their house, and
Mhm.
you know, we'd go over and everybody would have dinner together.
Mm-hmm.
Like my husband's uncle, now we would go to his house and have spaghetti dinners, and I mean it wasn't all bad.
And it was almost like when he was there, it was just everybody was cackling and laughing and everything like that, you know? And so sometimes it's hard. And I think about, are there people who listen to this podcast who knew a totally different person than we did? You know, and what some of his really close friends, and what do they think?
Right. And like them playing cards all the time, we would watch them play rummy and stuff, and I felt like I was so special when I finally got old enough where I could sit at the big people table and play rummy.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was just the biggest accomplishment ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
for hours. Yeah. I mean, up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, all of us kids were passed out in the floor or whatever, or we were still going at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Just depended on the day, you know? Right. I mean, so, but, you know, yeah. So
there was not always. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he was a jokester. He cut up with everybody. Mm-hmm. He'd always have people laughing.
Yes. Yeah. And he was a straight shooter a lot with things too, and that's kind of kept us that way too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he kept it real. He'd tell you what he thought, why he thought it,
mm-hmm.
and he didn't have any issues with telling you what he thought.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We have a little bit of a filter. We do. We don't just put it out there like he did. Right. However, if you ask,
we're going to put it out.
We're going to tell the truth.
We're going to tell you.
You don't want me to?
That's my opinion. I'm going to tell you my opinion.
I'll say.
I'll warn you ahead of time. You might not like what I got to say.
Yes.
Are you sure?
I will never forget. Now, maybe I shouldn't say this one here, but when you and your first husband he was deciding that he thought he wanted to be elsewhere, whatever, and y'all had that big house, and he told me that he thought it would be a good idea if he stayed downstairs. You and the boys had the upstairs, and y'all could come and go as you pleased and start dating other people. And he asked me what I thought, and I looked at him. I said, I'm not telling you what I think. And he said, no, I'm seriously asking your opinion. What do you think? And I said, all right. You're asking me. It's stupid. It will never work. I don't know what in the world makes you think it's going to work. Are you serious? Did you really just say that? And I was like, yeah. I told you not to ask me. Don't ask me. I mean, yeah, don't ask. I'm not intruded. You know, I'm intruding. I didn't say, so I've heard about this and I'm going to tell you what I think. No, didn't say anything like that. It wasn't my business.
Right.
That was between you and him. However, he asked. Mm-hmm. I loved him to death. You know that. I still love him to death. But I was like, don't ask me. I'm going to be honest. You know,
it didn't work.
It did not work. No, it did not. And I knew that was going to be just stupid. But, you know, anyway, like I said, we don't interject our things in there, you know, and you stand behind what you say too, you know. Yeah. Yeah, I did say that. I don't know why I said that or whatever. Or yeah, this is why I said that, you know. But that's another thing that we were taught to. You said it, you own up to it, or you stand behind it.
Right.
So, and you're not two-faced.
In the craziness, we were taught morals.
Yeah, we were. Mm-hmm.
We weren't shown them necessarily, but we were taught them.
Mm-hmm.
We were taught right from wrong. We do have good sense of humors, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we cut up and stuff because that's what we saw too.
Yeah.
It wasn't always negative. There was always a bunch of cutting up and burning each other. I mean, the better cut down you got.
Yes.
Yeah, you got high five. Oh yeah, she just burnt you real good.
Yes.
So it was one of those, and it was all in good fun. It was like, see who could cut down the other one the best.
And it didn't matter what a person came from, what they were, what they had, what they didn't have.
Right.
You treated everyone the same.
Right. Right.
How they treated you was how you treated them.
Right.
And if they didn't treat you well, then you should take it for a little bit, and then you don't have to take it.
Right.
And that's how we were taught, and that's how we still, and that's what we teach our kids too, you know. So I've had that conversation with my 5-year-old. I don't care if somebody is in a wheelchair. I don't care if there's 10 people making fun of that kid. You do not join in that.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
You know, and that's just, those are things that we have carried over from our childhood.
I mean, he's already learning at 5 years old to get out of abusive relationships.
Yes, he is.
he was married, then he wasn't married because she pushed him and hit him. But then they're married again, so he is a forgiving child.
He is.
But he's not going to put up with it no more. They will be unmarried again.
Yes.
If she does that again.
I don't make light of domestic violence situations. I really don't. But that's what I said, because they were like, they got divorced. Why in the world did they break up? And I said, well, it's a domestic violence situation. She punched him and hit him. Or she hit him and pushed him. Hit him and pushed him. Oh, I was like, yeah. I don't blame him for getting out of that. So.
5-year-old divorce. But that's all right. He's got other lives.
I'm sure he does. I am absolutely sure. And if he doesn't have a wife already, he has prospects.
Well, my sons don't stand a chance because both of their girlfriends are his wives.
Yes, I'm sure.
And one day he'll like one of them better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on which one's around.
Yeah.
You're my favorite. And
Yeah.
then when the other one's around, you're my favorite wife.
And the sad part is, he's so cute. At some point, he could steal them away.
Years now.
So.
But he makes sure that they pay all the attention to him when he's
Yep.
around. He's like, no, we're going to ignore them big guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you got to pay attention to me.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
All right. Ooh, this one's been a long one.
There has been. I didn't even realize that till just a second ago, but I'm glad that we were able to talk about some of this stuff, you know, some of the good stuff, along with the bad stuff, but, you know, the good stuff.
All right. I don't feel so heavy today.
Right. I don't either. I'm still dead tired, but I'm not mentally completely drained and dead tired. So
We've got people lined up to come and share with us here in the near future too. Some of the stuff that they have gone through. Let them start their healing process too. Open up, share some of the stuff that they've gone and dealt with. But I guess we'll wrap this up for this week, and we'll talk to you again next week.
episode 35.
Yes. Remember on us.
We are.
We inside.
Episode 36 means we've been doing this for 9 months. That's crazy. We could have had a baby by now.
And to believe. And to believe. And to think that right before we started this, we had that issue come up that could have actually stopped everything that we were doing because it was such a hard situation to go through. I was just thinking about that the other day. The enemy came in and tried to stop what we were doing and tried to use what we had gone through to make us feel dirty, like it was inappropriate for you to discuss anything with your cousin.
Right.
And I'm like, honey, we done shared it with the whole world. I was like, what? You're making a big deal out of her talking to one person. We done shared it with the whole world. So I think about that, how the enemy came in and tried to stop us from sharing. It didn't work. It didn't work because we weren't called by man. We were called by God to do this. So we'll just end this episode on that.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing what God has us to do, and we'll just keep doing it.
That's
until
exactly
God tells
right.
us to stop.
Yes.
This is around the time where they start doing the outro, but it was pretty bad sounding. You couldn't really understand them, so I re-recorded it. But anyways, thank you all for listening. Feel free to check out our website at www.survivingdarknesspodcast.com. You can find our social medias there, as well as our merchandise, such as tumblers, phone cases, and shirts. Thanks for the support, and we hope you have a good week. Bye-bye.
www.survivingdarknesspodcast.com 2 times in a row. Woo! I definitely need sound effects for that one.